And on the ice for Danville, it's going to be Dunford, Norman, Zaleski. I believe that's Giuliano and Wicklum. No, that's Punterari. And I did mention Zaleski and Mignon back on the ice. And let the gloves drop. It's going to be Jesse Felton taking on Matt Punterari. Here we go, north of center ice. Here comes Jesse Felton. Punterari turns his back towards the Zamboni doors. Felton leans in. Punterari, good speed, and a hug for both gentlemen. And looks like Punterari pulled a can out of his jersey. Wow. That was the least violent fight I ever saw. That is beautiful.
I think that was set up.
That is fantastic. But how do you can't say it's fight for fighting.
No.
And there's a water bottle. Who threw that water bottle on the ice? As Punterari, he's heading towards the locker room. I'll tell you, that's class.
What's up, everybody? This is your host, Sean Johnson, the creator of BenchMinerHockey.com. Welcome to the very first edition of the Bench Miner Hockey Podcast. I wanted to start this off with a bang, so I brought in one of the biggest Fed legends there is, Matt Punterari. Matt, thank you so much for joining me, buddy.
Pleasure to be here, Sean. I'm happy you got the podcast going. I know it gave you a little motivation to start up, and I'm proud of you, kid. Congratulations on the youngster. Look forward to seeing what you do with the podcast in the future.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, being a dad is crazy. It's kind of hard to explain how exciting it actually is. Like a few of my friends were telling me like, oh, there's no feeling like it. It's really hard to describe. You'll know when you feel it. And I was like, okay, I took that with a grain of salt. But man, after it happened, it's like, wow, like I created this, and there's no better feeling.
That's one of the special moments for sure. I got a couple nieces and nephews, and they're special too. But yeah, it's a whole different ballgame when you're a dad or a mother.
Absolutely. So very on this podcast, this episode, we're going to talk about a reason why you're a Fed legend, but we're also going to talk about like your life and career as well. So before we get to the exciting stuff, let's talk about you. Like, when did your hockey career start, and where did it start?
My uncle got me on the ice about 5 years old, 4 or 5. I started skating, and I played in an arena called Brady's Run for the Beaver County Badgers from the age of 5 to 12, and ended up playing AAA hockey with the Pittsburgh Hornets and the Cleveland Barons from 13 to 15 before starting in the OHL. And after that, I started my pro career at 21 in North Carolina in the Southern League. So sort of a short background of how it all started.
Right on. And what part of North Carolina were you in?
Winston-Salem, right by the old Wake Forest Arena. We were across the street there.
All right, not too far from me then. I'm about an hour and 15 minutes from the annex, so I go check out some Carolina Thunderbirds games here.
That's right. We love Carolina. We go to the Outer Banks every summer for vacation. So we're a big fan. I used to have cousins down there too. I remember being a huge Carolina fan. So that was cool for me to start the pro career off in that state.
So you actually came to Carolina before your career even started here?
Correct. Yeah. My cousins, they moved to California when I was 10 or 11. We used to go down there at 7, 8, 9 years old and hung out. They lived in Raleigh, so it's a little bit different than Winston and Outer Banks, but it was a really, really cool experience. I remember enjoying North Carolina thoroughly, so it's always nice to get back there.
Right. Yeah, I've been here for just shy of 2 years now. I live outside the Charlotte area. I always go check out the Charlotte Checkers games. It's super exciting. I still have yet to go check out a Hurricanes game, but that is on the bucket list.
Sounds good, but yeah, I'm a Charlotte Hornets guy. We were talking about jerseys and colors before being a reason for favorite teams, and the Hornets have been my favorite team for a while.
I actually went to my first NBA game this past season, and I watched the New York Knicks beat up on the Hornets. So it wasn't the greatest first start to my first Hornets game, but that's all right.
It's been a while since my last NBA game. I think I saw Charles Barkley in like 1993 or something. It's been probably 20 years since the NBA games, but I like the March Madness and you guys know all about that in Carolina. Well, you're not from Carolina, but that's the big sport in Carolina.
I'm not, but they are huge into their Duke and UNC rivalry here in Charlotte. I'll tell you what.
Absolutely. And then NASCAR obviously is huge down there, but hockey's getting bigger and bigger everywhere, and that's certainly true in the southeast.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that the SPHL is strong as it's ever been, and I know that the Fed is just getting bigger and stronger as well. So I know with all these new teams popping up, I know we have a new team joining the league this year, and I know we have Baton Rouge coming in as well. So um, I guess the South is becoming a hotbed for hockey.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. It's great for guys to get an opportunity to play professional sports, even if it's only for a year or two. To have those opportunities, especially with the financial situations the way it is today, where it's tough to keep leagues like that alive. They're doing a tremendous job of supporting it, and the fans obviously too, coming out to the rink and supporting the players, supporting the game, and it's a wonderful thing, because I know a couple guys that all they wanted to do was lace them up and play in front of some fans and get paid a little bit of money to do so, because they love the game, and it gives them the opportunity to do that. So that's very cool.
And as far as life after hockey, where are you at now? Where do you live? What do you do now?
I'm still in Wampum. Usually, it's easy for me to landscape, just because of the schedule. I'll do 6 months hockey and then 6 months at home landscaping. Um, Post hockey, I kind of live day by day. Coaching obviously is an option. I kind of think I'll do something with entertainment, motivational speaking or songwriting, something like that. Comedian maybe. We'll see how it goes. I kind of put my future in the Lord's hands and let it ride. I'm kind of on a spiritual journey right now, so my way hasn't worked as well as I think His way will. So we'll see what the future holds. But until I'm done with the game of hockey, I think we'll play a couple more years. I'd like to see a few more countries if possible. It's tough though with the visa and all the paperwork. It's very difficult to get to places like Spain and Iceland and Holland and Norway. Some countries that I'd like to do that are very difficult to do at this time. But we'll see. We'll see how it works out.
All right, yeah. And as far as the visas go, I'm just curious. Has COVID really hurt that as well, like the whole travel process?
A little bit. It's tougher for Americans. Canada kind of has a different deal with some of those countries. It's tough to get in America, for internationals. So they make it tough for us to get over there too, which is understandable. Every country's different. I'm going to Turkey here in a few weeks, and you don't even need to apply for a visa. You get off the plane and you go to a kiosk and they give you a visa. So it's a completely different situation from Finland, which I had to go to Chicago, couldn't even get the visa. I got shut down for the visa. I had the same situation in France, where I went to Washington D.C., got the visa, and then I had to deal with it in France for a couple months. So at this point in my career, even last year, I went to Finland for 3 months, because you're allowed to stay anywhere for 90 days without a visa. So I kind of just, they gave me a little side job at the school, hanging out with the kids. I was playing at recess with the kids last year, so that was a pretty righteous job. But the visa is so difficult sometimes that it's not even worth dealing with. So it's every country is different, but there's some that are very tough.
Right. So it really just depends on where you go, really.
Absolutely, and well, I'm talking about low minor hockey. If you're playing in the high European leagues, it's a completely different situation. They'll let you in without a visa. They'll figure it out once you get there. But when you're playing, small time hockey, single A, low double A, it's a much different task to get in.
Right. I remember even when I was with the Watertown Wolves, we would go to Cornwall, an hour away. And when we came back into the States, it was difficult. I'm like, 80% of us are American. Can't even get in our own country.
We had a couple guys get left at the border in Watertown. Actually, Trevor Karaszewicz and Jamie Z, they both had problems getting into Canada for their own reasons, and you just never know. I know a lot of people that have been shut down at the border, and with the imports coming into America too, they're dealing with the same things we are going that way. So you never know. You never know how it's going to work out. The Europeans like coming over here because it's a different experience, and for anyone that hasn't gone to the other side of the sea to play hockey, it's a different experience. I certainly would suggest it to anyone who likes to explore and find something new.
Yeah, I know a lot of my European hockey contacts, they like coming over to the States to play, but a lot of, American-born, Canadian-born
Absolutely.
players, they like playing European-style hockey.
And it's all about contacts. It is sometimes, I mean, you need a decent resume, but for the most part, it's about talking to the right person at the right time and getting the opportunity. Some guys do it easily, and other guys just can't find the right situation.
Right, absolutely. Now, let's talk about the fun stuff real quick.
Sure, there's lots of that.
I want to hear from the horse's mouth what actually happened on March 28th of 2014. So let me just paint the picture real quick for the fans that may not know what I'm talking about. So March 28th, 2014, Danville Dashers, who you were playing with at that time, were playing the Dayton Demons at Hare Arena. You, and I'm assuming was your friend, Jesse Felton, who played for Dayton at the time, got together for a little tangle with 9 minutes and 38 seconds left in the third. I know I know Danville was down 4-0 at the time. So can you walk us through what happened that day?
Sure. There was a lot going into it. I was kind of done with the FHL at that point. I had European opportunities on my mind. In my mind, it was going to be my last game, whatever happened. And Jesse and I are very good buddies. When I came up with the idea a week before, we played each other the week before, and I suggested it to him. I was like, "Oh, we're both supposed to have beers," and their coach found out about it, and because they were in the playoffs, he said, "No beer, Jess, because you might get suspended for playoffs." I did, and he was a big part of their team, so I didn't want him to get suspended. So the coach cut him off the beer, and he mentioned that to me before the game, and I was like, "Oh, I'm still gonna go through with the idea," and he was still up for it. So what happened was is basically I brought a Coors Light over from Danville and left it in the locker room for the first and second period because I was planning on doing it in the third, and then they had the commercial middle of the period break, and I put the Coors Light in my pants and wrapped it up tight. And I told Jesse, I was like, "It's time." We did the little dance. And the reason I went in for the hug so fast, we were going to do some more dancing and do some silly stuff, but the beer was falling out of my pants already, so that's why it kind of came out so quickly.
So that's why it's a quick, swift motion.
Yeah, it was a quick one, and and Jesse and I gave the little hug, and I had the beer, and it perfectly honest with you, it was the warmest beer I've ever had in my life. The locker room wasn't as chilled as I would have liked it. So the Coors Light was not as good as I would have liked, but certainly the story worked out well. It was my 15 minutes of fame to this day. I hope to get some more, but to this day, that is my most well-known moment in hockey. Although there's been a few of them.
Yeah, I've heard quite a few stories. I know, I talked to Trevor Krasowicz. He always has a funny story to tell me about you. So
Yeah, he's got a new one every time, I bet.
absolutely. Yeah, well, you already answered two of my questions. First, I want to know what kind of beer that was. You said it was a warm Coors Light, so I couldn't imagine that was too enjoyable.
It was a war Coors Light. Absolutely, yeah, it's straight from the Rockies. This one was straight from the Danville bus, so it wasn't quite as good as the commercials was suggesting.
Yeah, I don't think most Fed buses had coolers, so I couldn't imagine it was too good.
If they did, they put the clothes in there, keep them from wrinkling.
Right. I know when I was the equipment manager at Watertown, man, I had to come up with ways to help the players out with their, road sodas for the bus rides. So I had a plan myself. So
Were you in Watertown that year for the big fight? That was like a couple months before I got to Danville when they had the bench clearing brawl.
yeah, yep. That was
That was,
I think that was the year that was Watertown Privateers, right? That was the first Watertown Privateer.
was the coach got his his dress shirt ripped off.
Yeah, that was a day.
One
Watertown
of
police were heavily involved that day.
That's one of my favorite videos to watch. I usually wouldn't enjoy a man ripping off another man's shirt, but that one's definitely a nice view.
Yeah, I think with Chris McCarthy skating around the rink with an opposing jersey just ripping it around is like the most infamous
Yeah,
moment in Watertown history. So
there was a lot going on there. There was about 15 people on the ice, and no one knew what the hell was going on. So it was pretty wild.
yeah, I'll never forget that day. My goodness. I actually didn't work for the team at that point. I was just a fan, and I was just, what is going on right now?
Welcome to the Federal Hockey League, huh?
That's probably one of the first. Well, that wasn't the first game I ever went to, but that was one of the first three I went to, I think, and that's probably what got me hooked, to be honest with you. But
Something I left out of the beer fight story and was really underrated was I showed up with half a beard, so I had this side of my face shaved and this side was this, so it was kind of like that. And one of the fans is like, "What are you doing? What is that?" I was like, "You ain't seen nothing yet, buddy."
I never heard that part of the story at all.
It's never been mentioned. The camera's not close enough to see it, but
Right.
I'll have to see if I can find a picture of it somewhere. It was quite a facial hair situation there.
Yes, we need this picture, and we were putting it on Bench Minor Hockey.
That was the profile
We
pic.
might even end the YouTube video with a picture of this because I think it's going to be hilarious.
We'll see. It's gonna be tough to find, I'm sure.
You and Jesse Felton came up with this idea. Like, how far in advance was it? Was it just like a day or two, or?
It was a week. It was a week. We played them,
Week?
the Saturday or Sunday before, and then we played them Friday. I can't remember the day exactly. It was about 6 days beforehand. It was the previous weekend, and we didn't really talk about it during the week. We basically had the idea, and then we confirmed it before the game, and that was about it. Not much went into it. It turned out a lot better than it should have because there wasn't much planning to it. We kind of just came up with an idea and ran with it, and luckily it kind of backfired too because Jesse missed playoffs, which they ended up losing, I think, that year in the finals in the fifth game, which he would have made a big difference in that series, I think, in the playoff run. So that was unfortunate. He got banned for the playoffs, and I got banned for life. So I was planning on getting banned for life, but I didn't want Jesse to get suspended. So that was the unfortunate part of it. Not too many people can claim that in federal league history. That's definitely one for the Matty P resume.
Yeah. See, that's not on your hockey DB, which I guess is a good thing.
We need to get it on there. We need to get it. When the career's over, we'll put all the fun stuff on there.
Absolutely. So I got to ask, when the whole punishment came out, how exactly did it transpire? Like, did the commissioner come talk to you personally, or was it a phone call, or?
It was a phone call from a friend, really, because I actually started the text because there was a text between me, the owner, who was Barry Soskin, Joe Pace, and Joe Pace Sr., who was the coach at the time with Kellemeyer. They were like co-coaching. So I sent him a text saying, "You guys ready to win a championship next year?" And Soskin sent me a message back that said, "This is pretty funny. This part hasn't been told either." He goes, "Did you pull a beer out of your sock?" And I was like, "It was more from the crotch area." And that's when I think sealed my fate right there. He goes, like, "This guy's out of here. I'm not putting up with this punk anymore."
Well, I guess that's what you get for being honest. I guess you should have just went with the sock story.
Yeah, I should have stuck to the sock story. No, my intention was certainly to be done with the FHL, so it all worked out as it should have. But I certainly appreciate. I mean, back then I'm a much older guy, a little more mature, but I was doing some things that I probably wouldn't do today back then, and I respect Barry Soskin and all he's done for the league, and they're doing a wonderful job because like we were talking about earlier, it's nice for kids to to get paid to play hockey and the fans enjoy it. So he's doing a great job with that. As well as the other owners in the league.
And let me bring that back to the beer story one more time. I just have a quick question about this. So on the score sheet, there's no penalties at all.
Sure.
Now, I don't really think it's against the rules to.
Correct.
What do you do? 5 minutes for pulling out a beer? It's not really in the rule book. So what exactly did the refs say?
Initially, I think they were calling a penalty, and then they kind of discussed it, and they just said, nah. And when you look at the video, I think we were both heading to the box, and then they kind of like, no, there's nothing happening here. So you can see me, I do kind of a circle, and instead of going back to the bench, I sort of just V-line to the Zamboni doors, to the exit door, and then I just had a beer for the last 8 minutes of the game and watched it because there's no better way to end the career than that. If I do that and then play the last 5 minutes, it's like, well, not quite as spectacular.
After you skate off the ice, whatever, you're heading to the locker room, like, your time in the Fed is done regardless. Were you planning on that being like your retirement from hockey or just retirement from the Fed?
From the Fed, yeah. I certainly planned on playing hockey. I kind of take it day to day. It depends on opportunities. If it's not worth going somewhere, then then it's time to hang them up. But I've certainly considered retirement the last few years. I had a concussion that kept me out for a year and a half. And I wasn't sure because you can't mess around with those things. You get one more. I think one more concussion would be the end for sure. I've had 3 or 4, but this one was bad, and so I wasn't sure I was able to come back from that. But I went last year and it worked out well. So we're back on the horse, and we'll see how long we can ride it. But I at the time in 2014, I certainly intended to play more.
Have you talked to Barry or talked to Don since?
Hardly, I never really talked to Barry. I met him actually. My first, it's funny because my first hockey opportunity was in Toledo in the East Coast League. I played 6 games, and he was the owner there. That was really the only time I met him. Other than that, I've had a few phone calls with him, but no, haven't talked to him at all. I haven't really talked to anyone from Danville other than buddies of mine, Jamie Zaleski and Dusty Henning. Brian Dunford was there. Guys that I knew even before I got to Danville. So. There were certainly some characters on the team. Nick Nieder just got a job in the Southern League. He was there. But other than that, not too much. I know Pacer's still doing his thing, and Joe and I used to play against each other when we were youngsters. He was in Chicago and I was in Cleveland and Pittsburgh. So when we were kids, we used to play against each other. We've known each other for a long time. But not by design, but I just haven't been in touch with. I haven't followed the Fed very often at all. Unless I had a buddy that was making a playoff run, which even then, I follow. I'm buddies with Newberg, who had a great year last year. I was proud of him because he was one of those guys who wanted to play, and he was leading the league in assists. I think he did end up leading the league in assists last year, which was fantastic. And
yeah, he had a great season. When I was with him at Watertown, he's one of my favorite guys to talk to. Then I knew as soon as he went to Binghamton, I'm like, wow, you're gonna put on a clinic now. Like you're in a barn now.
He was ready to rock and roll. He's another one of those guys that had the kid, and I think it helped him grow up a little bit, and he committed to the game, and he's doing some great things with it. So I was really really happy for him.
Yeah, I see when he was in Watertown, like he did the same thing with the clinics with the kids, and I can't remember the name of the company, but there's a company in Watertown where they had like the fake ice, and he would train kids over there,
Yeah.
and now I see he's doing the same thing in Binghamton. So it's awesome to see players like him, involved in the community and growing the game essentially for the next generation.
And that's really neat thing too is that they have that synthetic ice. You could put it in your garage, and you could teach lessons there. You can basically do it anywhere. So that's a good opportunity for people that are want to teach lessons and you can't find the right ice time, because a lot of those rinks they make you pay the insurance and they make you do this and do that, and it's kind of tough to make money while you're giving lessons. So you can just set up shop at your house and teach to say it's not the same, but it's the next best thing. So it's definitely a nice change of pace from going to the rink.
Yep, that company was Power Play Sports. So shout out Power Play Sports, Watertown, New York.
Nicely done, nicely done. A little advertising.
Shameless plug for them. Synthetic ice is better than no ice, so check them out.
That's the new motto. That's the new motto for Power Play Sports.
And what else was I going to ask you actually? Oh, your coach. So during or after that beer incident, what did your coach have to say? I know you said that Jesse's coach, he caught on, he kind of stopped it on his end, but what did your coach say to you? And what kind of bus ride was that back home?
Really, it was pretty low key, until we got back, because we were all getting drunk. It was the last game of the season. We knew our year was over, so it was kind of like the boys' last bonding moment before we packed up and left in the next few days. Joe Pace Sr. said, Barry Soskin's not happy with you at all. He's like, he's been talking to me the whole time. I was like, well, he can feel free to talk to me anytime he wants. And the Joe Pace Sr. basically all he said was like, you got some balls. I was like, yeah, I guess so. Or I'm just too drunk and stupid to know any better, one of the two, or a happy medium. But there wasn't much said. The action spoke louder than any words could say. So it was kind of a waste of time to talk about anything.
So we talked about the story, what happened, why you're banned for life. Is there any part of that story that fans may not know about that just never got out or anything like that?
I'm trying to think. I told you about the facial hair and
the beard thing is quite interesting. I did not know that.
There was meetings on the way. Oh, this is funny because Joe Pace Sr. or Joe Pace Jr., who was basically the leader of our team, he wasn't wearing the captain, but we traded him right before the game. So he got traded to Dayton that day. It was like the last game of the season. He got traded to Dayton.
So he had to walk across the hall to the other locker room and
Yeah,
switch
well, he was
jerseys.
on our bus. He was on our bus, and then he walked over. He had his hockey bag and his duffel bag, and he basically moved to Dayton that day. Um, and so we had a meeting. There was team meetings going on because they had a bunch of guys sign PTOs. I didn't sign the PTO because I knew there's no advantage to signing a player tryout when
Mm-hmm.
when you could be a free agent. If they don't keep you, which they had an opportunity to keep, I don't know, 8, 12 guys, something like that. So I didn't sign one, and they were having a player meetings talking about coming back next year, this and that. And yeah, Joey got traded before the game, so that was like confirmation. I was like, oh, this is a gong show. My beer fight's gonna fit in just right here. So it was that was an interesting part of it. I'm trying to think anything else. Oh, Danny Mercer. Danny, this is a funny part. Yeah, I don't know if you remember Dan Mercer. He was a redheaded mustache man. So I played with him in New Jersey, and he was in Dayton at the time. And we were roommates the year before. He's like, Ponce, you beauty. I can't believe you did that.
What, did everybody from the Jersey Outlaws go over to Dayton the
Yeah,
following year?
yeah, the team dispersed, so they all just went all over the league. But he was in Dayton, and he actually was the only other guy to have a sip of the warm Coors Light. He just wanted to be a part of the memory. So he had a sip of the Coors Light. That's about all I can add to the story that I can remember at this moment. But yeah, Danny
See,
Mercer.
I didn't see that on the video. Was he on the ice or was he on the bench at the
He
time?
wasn't playing. Yeah, he was a healthier. I think he was injured. He was just.
Oh, okay.
This was in the locker room. He followed me into the locker room. He's like, "Oh, I love it, Ponce. I love it." So he had to be a part of the moment and have a sip of the warm Coors Light.
And what was that atmosphere like at Hara Arena when you're just skating around the ice?
It was all. It seemed so quiet. Like not that the fans were quiet, but you're just once you get into that zone where you're just like doing your own thing, you don't even notice what's going on around you. So I kind of didn't realize anyone else around. It was just kind of me and Jesse doing our thing. And then, after it's done, you come back and it just seemed, I mean, it's like Dayton's seen it 100 times. They've seen some crazy shit. I'm sure. Gretzky started his career there, right? His pro career. That was his first arena.
Right.
So there's a lot of history in that barn. And I think it was almost another day at the office at O'Hare Arena.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any plans to fix that building or what's going on. I haven't heard anything about it since.
Yeah, I'm not sure. They have concerts and stuff there too. So I'm not sure what the big move is there.
Yeah, I thought there would be some kind of a statement saying, we're going to rebuild or we're going to, start operations somewhere nearby, but I haven't heard anything about Hara Arena since that, was it tornado, right?
Oh, did it? See, I didn't even know about that. So it went down.
Yeah, I think it was a tornado that hit it,
Oh,
if I remember right. It was some natural disaster.
yeah. Too bad Gretzky started his career there. I could have had the greatest hockey moment in O'Hare history. Now I'm just second to the great one starting his career.
Well, someone had to do something spectacular there.
Yeah, yes. Someone had to answer the great one.
Yeah, this was just the okay one,
Yeah, the average one,
the average one.
the warm one.
Goodness gracious. Retired and, you're banned from the league per se. Where did you go after that, the following season?
Following season, where did I go? Somewhere in Europe. Oh, geez. This is what happens when you party too much. I have to look at the resume. It was somewhere in Europe, I think. Where the heck was I? I've been to so many doggone countries now that I can't even remember.
You had such a great time, you can't even remember it, huh?
Yeah, it was a really good year. I remember it being a great year. 2000. Oh, you know where I went? It was in America. It was Sun Valley. I went to Sun Valley, which is like a senior A league. And actually, it's funny because a couple of my buddies came. Jesse Felton ended up coming.
Oh, yeah?
And
The same following
Jamie
season?
Zaleski. Yeah, the following season. We were roommates. We were living in the same room. Which I forgot that part of the story. That's a funny part of the story. I was in Sun Valley, which is a senior A league, and they play teams. It's kind of like a ski resort league. So they play teams like Jackson Hole and Bozeman. Who else is in the Park City? Park City's in the league, and they get other teams that fly in from the east and the west, and they play teams from kind of just guys that played pro hockey in the past, and they're living in a ski town and they got their career job and everything, and they play hockey on the side. So I went there for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think I ended up I went to New Zealand after that the one summer, and then ended up in Germany in like 2017. So that's how that's how the journey went. I almost forgot about Sun Valley. So Sun Valley was a really good time. That's why it was a blank space in my mind. I went there a couple of years after that too, but yeah, I might end up going back there again. It's a really cool town. Those towns are something else.
So I know you said that you don't really follow the Fed much anymore, but I know back in the day there was only 4, maybe 6 teams in the Fed. Now we're up to 10. What are your thoughts about that?
I mean, it's cool. The more teams, the more opportunities. You hope that they don't get too thin, where the talent's not what it used to be. Like, and it seems like they're getting more fighters now. I have a couple buddies, Pacer and Justin Schmidt, and I see they've signed a couple other tough guys to the league, so they're kind of changing their approach there. But either way, I mean, obviously the product might not be what it used to be as far as talent goes, but it's a win-win because you get more players playing, and you get more towns that get to enjoy the hockey, and you spread the game around, because even even the least talent, even beer league's fun to watch, so it's the more teams the merrier, I think. If they can afford to do it, more power to them. So the more towns that have teams, the better.
Do you follow the SPHL by chance or no?
Very little, I mean, you see things, because I'm buddies with so many guys on Facebook. You see things, you see updates and stuff like that, but I couldn't tell you who won either one of those leagues the last 5 years.
Gotcha.
Not for any other reason than just I'm in Europe and doing my own thing, not by design. I follow the NHL at playoff time. Other than that, unless I have a fantasy hockey team, I'm not really following the NHL either. It's
right.
Not for any other reason than I'm just doing my own thing. I love sports, and so I'll check the standings here and there, but I'm not watching games until playoff time usually.
Man, you made this part hard because I wanted to know your prediction on who's gonna go to the championship games this year, but if you don't really follow them, it's hard to ask that.
For hockey, I'll give you this. My buddy Billy McCreary is in Danbury, so I'm gonna predict the Danbury Hat Tricks win the Federal League this year.
It's actually not a bad selection. Like, they've had a solid team for a few years now, and they're just missing a piece or two. And like you just said, they just signed Amesbury, and he's a tough guy. So maybe that's what they need. They need some grit.
Hopefully they find it. I think Billy's going to be a tremendous coach. He already is, but he might be what they needed to get that extra spark. I think Brownie's still there too. He was always a solid defenseman, and I'm sure he's a very good leader now. That he's an older fella. I'll go with the Hat Tricks in that league, and the SPHL. I'm not sure who's still in the league, because some of them went to the Fed, right?
Danville from the Fed went to the SP. Now they're Vermilion County.
Okay. I'll say, is Pensacola still in the league? I'll go with Pensacola winning the SP.
Pensacola.
Just
solid choice.
Just because it's an awesome.
Players love playing there, right?
That's right. I was there for a month, and I enjoyed it thoroughly.
Yeah, Kraz told me when he played there, the goal is to not get cut because you like to live on the beach.
Yeah, exactly. I have a funny story about that, actually. The reason I got cut. I was way overweight, but I had a pretty good camp where I scored some goals, and if I got myself into shape, I think I'd have been able to stick around all year. But I was dating a girl at the time, and she had 2 cats, and the coach and I hadn't discussed the fact that there was no pets allowed in the apartments, in the houses. So when I got there and I told him I had 2 cats, he's like, "Ooh, that's going to be an issue," and he's like, "I'll try to figure it out before camp's over." But we didn't figure out the situation, so it was either like I got to find someone to watch the cats, or I got to leave town. And unfortunately, I ended up having to leave town with the girl and the cats. I tell people that's the only time in my life I've had too much pussy. It was the 2 cats.
1 girl, 2 cats.
2 cats kicked me out of town. I think that's my only time my dad was like disappointed and gave me a tough time. He's like, "What? You're leaving paradise over 2 cats?" I was like, "Oh, you're right, Dad. You are right on this one." But I ended up choosing a girl, and I ended up in Augusta, and I wasn't playing that well that year. I ended up playing for 5 teams that year because I was out of shape and I never really pulled it together. That was the year I ended up in Danville, actually, I think.
Ain't that crazy how it all came full circle?
It sure did, buddy. It all started with the cats.
Oh my goodness. Oh, that's too funny. Let me ask you this. So let's say this ban vanished and you're eligible to come back to the Fed. Would you?
I'd certainly entertain the situation. more or less just to see what's up with the fans and everything. I know Danbury would love to see me. I was going to do the Mustache Classic this year in November. Matt Capiato sets that up, and I just found out about Turkey last week, where I'm going to be heading to Turkey in a couple weeks. So unfortunately, I'm going to miss that. But certainly to see some old fans and friends in the league, I would entertain it, but it would only be a couple game thing or something like that.
If maybe like a weekend contract or something like
that. Yeah, for $1 million, But I'll be in Europe as long as
you're in the wrong league, buddy. You're in the wrong league.
I have been my whole career, I think.
So, if you were to come back as a celebrity player for a weekend, would you want to play for the Hat Tricks, or would you want to go somewhere else?
I think Danbury would be the spot. They even when I was an opponent that gave them headaches, they always love me in the end, and they actually, when they sing "God Bless America," they throw me into the song. So I really appreciate that. I think Danbury would be the spot. Yeah, they go to the mountains, Punterari. They squeeze me right in there. So I'd like to sit in section 102 for a night and then maybe play the next night and see how it goes. But it was funny because when the Wilman, who was it, the Outlaws Williamsport, they had the dispersal draft when that happened, and so I was playing in the CHL for a couple months, and I got released from there like right before the finals, which ended up being Danbury and Dayton, and Danbury had drafted me in the third round of the dispersal draft. And so they find out I get released, and I get a call, and they're like, "Hey, would you come for the finals?" I was like, "Sure, yeah, an opportunity to win a championship." And so I'm there for 3 games. I played 1 game in Danbury, my only home game, and we won a championship that night. So it's kind of hysterical how it worked out because they haven't won a championship in like 50 years. I show up for one home game, we end up winning the trophy. So that was
unbelievable.
That was definitely my most gift wrapped championship for sure. Only playing 3 games and 1 home game. That was very kind of the FPHL. I kind of owe them for that. That debacle.
Hey, take it where you can get it, because it's not easy, man.
That worked out in my favor. Yeah, I really do appreciate that.
No, I'm sure that they would love to have you back. Section 102, I don't think they're as crazy as they used to be, but they're still pretty crazy.
Yeah, it depends, how the liquor sales are that night, I'm sure.
Yeah, we need some more beer sales in Danbury. That's the problem.
More beer. Get more beer in Danbury.
Yeah, Billy McCreary, if you're listening, we need the Matt Punterari special, Coors Light, half off.
I could be a beer salesman in that rink too. I'm multi-talented. Bartender, Matty P, section 102.
Yeah, only 102. That's 102. The only
102.
section you sell beer to.
I'll focus on section 102.
I'm sure they would love that. I'm sure they'd love you on the ice even more, but I mean, I'll take where they can get you, right?
There'd be a lot of beer sales that night for sure.
Well, I'm just saying, Danbury, if you're listening, hooking you up right here. Call your boy Matty P. You got a player, you got a salesman, everything you need right here.
Celebrity bartender. I'll work for tips, baby. You don't even have to pay me. Give me one of those beer dispensing helmets, and we'll call it even.
Kraz used to say, "I'll work for free."
Yeah. Well, it's easier to sell it when you're drinking it. You're louder.
Yeah, you're supposed to sell the beer, not drink it, though. But we're just about out of time. Anything else you want to add to the first Bench Minor podcast, Matty P?
Yeah, I just thank you. It was an honor and a privilege being the first guy on the podcast. I'm proud of you for getting it going. Congratulations again on the child, and big shout out to my boy Jamie Z. I told him I'd say hello. Brian Dunford, and to my hockey friends there in Turkey, I'm back. Also, my band Wine and Spirit, my boys from Wampum. God bless everyone. Good to see everybody. Spread the love, baby.
Perfect. Well, once again, I appreciate you coming on. Next week, well, this episode is actually going to air on Tuesday the 20th, so we are 2 days away from launching this episode. And then the following week, on Tuesday, September 27th, we're going to have Cam Brown, former coach and player of the Baton Rouge Kingfish.
Very cool, man. Keep the good guests coming, dude. Very, very awesome.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Matt. Appreciate you, and we'll talk to you soon, buddy.
My pleasure, Sean. Have a great one, buddy.
Thank you.